So Dead of the Night has been out for a couple days now, and for me personally, I've really already spent more than 24 hours of in-game playtime in this map already, and I just spent a really good amount of time in this map, both doing just playing the game in general, going for the Easter egg. I've actually completed the Easter egg a good amount of times, and I tried going for some rounds just to get a feel for the general gameplay, but I didn't get to any crazy rounds. I think I only got to like 30, so it wasn't too crazy. It was obviously just the higher rounds, if that makes any sort of sense. So I would still say that I have a pretty good, playtime and just understanding of how this map is just played and how I really feel about it. And of course, because of that, that is what brought us to this video and my review of Dead of the Night, because it's just something I want to share with you guys, because it's actually something that's been asked to me pretty often, and people have recently pointed out that I've seemingly only made reviews when I'm not happy with the map, but that's not the case with Dead of the Night, and I want to do it just this once because I do think it's something that is worth talking about. And of course, for the people who haven't actually seen any of my reviews in the past, it's actually done in a very specific way, and how I actually do this is I look at, well, three major factors, and there's going to be a little change to this video, but not too much. But regardless, how I normally do it is I go by just general gameplay, and what I mean by general gameplay is just things that's going to affect you every single time you play. So like the steps to get Pack-a-Punch and just, you know, the normal stuff, the mystery box, the spawn location, just the things that you would normally experience every single game, no matter what you're doing, if you're just playing casually, playing just for the heck of it, or maybe for high rounds, or even the Easter egg. I just want to talk about the general gameplay. Then after that, I talk about the Easter egg, which technically, yes, that is gameplay, but it's not the general gameplay because you're not doing that every single time. But then after that, I would talk about storyline, and that has been warranted for the Ether maps, but I'm not too sure if that's really warranted for a Chaos map, because I can't really put too much of my judgment of this map into its storyline, because it's a storyline that's just barely started up. So what I'll do, I will mention the storyline, but I'm not going to really go into a deep dive of it like I would do for an Ether storyline, and instead what I'm going to do is combine sort of the storyline with the aesthetic of the map, because this is something I really want to talk about. But anyways, with that long explanation out of the way, let's actually get into this review. So the very first thing I want to talk about is, of course, the general gameplay, because again, this is the most important one to absolutely everybody who's going to be playing this map. So one thing I really do like about this map is its flow. I do have one problem with the flow, but we'll get into that in a little bit. But for the most part, it just has a really good feel to the map, because even though, and I don't know how they did this, it's a really weird feel for me, and if you guys also feel this, I'd love to hear about your explanation of how to explain, because this is something that's kind of hard for me to explain. But in this map, when I'm playing it, it always really doesn't really feel like I'm too far from the other side of the map. Like if I'm in Greenhouse, it doesn't really feel like I'm that far from the graveyard. It's not that long of walk, unlike something like I guess Blood of the Dead, where if you're at spawn, you know you have a long way to walk if you're going to be trying to go to the docks area, or even the main prison area. It's still a long walk. But in this map, it's never, you never really get that feeling for the most part. I mean, the longest possible walk from two different locations, I guess, would be from maybe the forest to the entrance hall. I guess that's the longest walk I can think of, but then there's a teleporter there to take you between those two. Or maybe you could say from the greenhouse to the graveyard, but at the same time, it just never feels like a really long walk, that something is too far for you to get, or just a pain thinking about, my gosh, I'm going to be walking forever. And what I think is really cool about this feeling is that it never feels like anything's too far, but the map never really feels small either. In fact, the map feels huge, probably bigger than it actually is, just probably from the grandeur of the map in the first place. That's why it feels so big. And even though this map, I would say, is a medium-sized map, it never actually feels like that. It feels like a bigger map, but it also doesn't feel like a bigger map. It's just a weird feeling I get, and maybe it's just me, but it's something that I really like. I just like the feel of a big map, but I don't actually like walking through this big map, like something like Origins. Like if you have to go from spawn to the church, just a really long walk, and that's just something I'm personally not too much of a fan of because I just don't like going too far. But I don't know, I think it just did a really good something. This is the thing I can't explain, but it's just a really good flow, I guess. I mean, the only problem I have is that there's no way to use the teleporters to get to the graveyard or the greenhouse, but then again, at the same time, like I said, it just doesn't feel like that's a long walk regardless. So it's just really cool how they can make it feel like it's a big map, but they also don't make it feel like it's a small map. Like it doesn't have the pains of a big map, but it also doesn't have the pains of a small map, but it has a feel of both of them, at least in the good areas of those. And it's a really cool feeling that I just don't know how to explain past that, but I would love to hear if you guys actually also feel that, because it's something that I personally feel. I think it's a really cool feeling, and I just think it's something that I was really warranted to be pointed out, even though it's a smaller detail, but it is something I really liked about this map. But of course, there's something I'm not the biggest fan of with the gameplay of this map, and it's that in this map, you would be tricked into believing that this is an open map where you're going to be able to train really well, which is not the case. There is not a single casual, I guess, training location in this entire map. There is not a single one. And that's not to say it's impossible to train. It's just that it is incredibly ridiculous how hard it is to train. I mean, we're talking about maybe like a training spot. I'm trying to think of a good comparison. I just can't think of one, but it's these really chaotic trains. And in these trains, you're going to constantly have to buy new shields because your shield's always getting pounded. It doesn't matter where you trying to train. It just again, hitting your shield is going to be breaking every single round if it doesn't break in the middle of the round. So training isn't the strongest suit of this map. Now, I haven't really tried camping, especially with the wonder weapon. I know I should have did that before recording this video, but I'm not too sure. I haven't really seen any good camping spots either lately, but I already heard that someone actually got to round 100, so maybe I'm missing something. And I mean, high rounds isn't exactly my thing, and when I'm thinking of training, I'm thinking of just doing that during an Easter egg, so that's just where I'm coming from, so you have to kind of understand that too. But I just don't think there is like a really solid training place like we had in pretty much every other map inside Black Ops 4. I mean, 9 had nice training places, Voyage had one of my all-time favorite training places in its dining hall, and then of course Blood of the Dead has its super nice training places. So there's a lot of really good training places in all the other maps, so it's a really interesting shift. Now, I'm not saying it's a bad thing that they don't have good training places, but it's just one thing that annoys me while I'm doing the Easter egg. But of course, it's something that gives you a different feel to the map, and you don't play the maps the whole same way, so you can look at it as a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. So it's just one thing I thought I'd bring up regardless. But anyways, moving on to the weapons. So the weapons in this map, there's nothing really unique besides for the wonder weapons, so that's all I'm really going to be talking about, because the wonder weapons are quite interesting, and we have two of them. Now, I don't know about the first one because I'm not going to be talking about the crossbow one too much, because as of recording this video, nobody knows how to upgrade it, and the current version of the bow is it's okay. I mean, it's nothing that special, so I just don't think it's worth talking about. And even when it gets upgraded, I can't imagine it's going to be that game changing, because I don't personally get that every game, or even most of my games. I've only got it once because I think its quest is a little bit ridiculous, but regardless, it's just it's its own thing. But on the other hand, I want to talk about Alistair's Folly or Annihilator or Chaos Theory or whatever version you have of this, because this is a really fun weapon to use. I really do like it, because when it's in Alistair's Foley's version of it, of course that's a standard version that you get out of the box or out of the little weapon kit that you have, the unlock thing, whatever you want to call it, it's pretty much a ray gun. It's a ray gun without splash damage. I thought that was cool on its own. I mean, a ray gun without splash damage, yes please. It's one of the cooler wonder weapons already. But then you can upgrade it further to the Chaos Theory, and the Chaos Theory is really cool on its own, because it can still shoot like a ray gun without, of course, the splash damage, but it also has charge shots. And one thing I do find a little annoying is that it kind of varies between two different charge shots. It'll rather do a little swirling attack that you have, or a green mist on the floor that kind of makes turn zombies. It's not really turn zombies, but it just kind of makes the zombies just walk around and then they die in a couple seconds, which are really cool abilities. But my only complaint is that you can't choose between the two, and I normally wouldn't have a complaint with that, besides the fact that you actually have to have certain ones activate for certain Easter egg steps, namely when you're trying to upgrade it to the next Alistair's Annihilator, when you have to get the green shot on the floor and you have to, of course, have zombies dig it up. And then at other points when you're trying to get the Alistair's Annihilator, you have to, of course, get the charge shot with the swirly stuff and then kill vampires with that. So it is annoying in that sense, but just for using it from just a gameplay perspective, of course, minus the upgrades and Easter eggs, it's just a really, really cool weapon. But of course, I want to focus on the best version of it. Of course, Alistair's Annihilator. This is the final upgrade to it that you could actually get. And what this does is pretty much it gets the, I guess, what do you want to call it, the Chaos Theory, and it gives it a couple more, I guess, extra charge shot abilities. Because before, like I said, you had the green mist that kind of hypnotized zombies, then killed them. Then you had, of course, that one ability that would just swirl them up. I'm not sure what to call it, but now when you actually get to the Annihilator, I believe you get 3 extra attacks with the charge ability. Of course, you still get the single shot on the floor, which will be pretty much a rig 'em without splash damage. That's still the same. But the charge shot now gives you a fire ability, which is used for Easter egg step. And of course, this will just kind of burn zombies. They'll have like a little mist thing going around, kind of like how you see them turn them into zombies in the intro to Voyage of Despair, except now it burns them. And then, of course, you have this new shrinking ability, which is really, really cool. I really like the shrinking ability. It is just so powerful. I just like it so very much. And there's just a lot of cool abilities. And I really like this weapon for its uniqueness, because we never really saw a wonder weapon that did different things every single time you shot it. And I think it's probably one of the more unique. I love the look of the gun, that's for sure. I really do like the look of it. It's just a really cool looking gun. But then on top of that, it's just so unique and so fun to use. It's just probably one of the best best wonder weapons inside Black Ops 4. I think actually I would say that. Yeah, it is the best wonder weapon inside Black Ops 4 by far. And of course, the reason I say that is because of the Magma Gat and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, those are cool, but that's kind of based on the Black Ops 2 gun, and some of them are directly from Black Ops 2, so you know that's why I don't bring that one in. But I don't know, maybe I like it more than that one too. It's hard for me to say. Even though I like the Kraken, I don't really like the Scorpion gun too much, but this one is one I really like. My favorite one inside Black Ops 4 so far. I mean, that's of course just in DLC 1, but I really liked Alistair's Annihilator, my favorite wonder weapon. So, but that's really all I could say about the general gameplay. For the most part, I really, really do like the general gameplay. I think it's just a fun map to play no matter what you're doing. Of maybe not too much high rounds, because again, just for me personally, because I'm a fan of training, but of course camping, if you can camp, I'm not sure if that's a possibility because I never tried it. But I think just for the most part, it's just a fun map to play no matter what. It's just a really, really cool map. But now moving on to the Easter egg, because we know how important Easter eggs have become for zombies. But I first want to just go over all the steps for the Easter eggs. I wouldn't normally do this, but this is actually really easy to explain, surprisingly, because all you have to do is open Pack-a-Punch, and then, of course, just you have to upgrade the wonder weapon, but we're leaving that out because we already talked about the wonder weapon. But besides those steps, you just have to do 3 different challenges. You have to do the Atlas step, then you have to do, or you of course could do this in any order, but then you have the Wicker Man or whatever that step is called, and then after that, of course, you're going to have yourself. Did I say the teleporter, telescope one? Yeah, the telescope one, the Wicker Man, and now the Atlas. Yes, no, the telescope one is the same one as the Atlas. Which one am I leaving out here? I can't believe, let me look at my notes. Okay. The Knights, that's what it was. My bad there. I just repeated the Atlas and telescope one are the same one. So, quick apologies right there, but regardless, of course, you're going to have 3 different steps. Just the Knights one is kind of easy, so that's why I really forget it. But let's first talk about the telescope one, because this is the order you'll normally do it in. Of course, you could obviously do it any order you want, but normally you do it in this order. So the Atlas/telescope step is actually quite interesting, because I think it's very visually appealing. It looks really, really cool. I mean, seeing the Atlas, the Atlas Titans statue, I guess, holding the entire world on his back, kind of collapsing all that stuff, which I've been questioning for a while if that has some storyline implications, but of course that's for a different point in time. But regardless, it's just very visually appealing, and the steps are all pretty interesting. I mean, yes, it's kind of annoying where you have to look for the I forgot what they're called, the zodiac symbols, and then the scratches on the wall, because you have to memorize at least 4 different locations for every single zodiac symbol. And I mean, it's just a lot of memorizing, or at least looking back and forth between your computer or your, I guess your, not computer, it could be your phone, like, it doesn't matter, but for me it's a computer, to look at the images for where they spawn, and that could be a pain. But I mean, it's kind of okay, at least it's not too much of a problem. But of course, then there's the step where you have to move the Atlas rings around to match all the lights, which isn't a problem on co-op, but it is annoying on solo, and I don't get why the developers haven't realized that it's annoying on solo to do steps where you have to be stationary, because the zombie's just going to hit you, which, I mean, we've had those steps before, of course. I'm not going to complain too much about them, but it's just another thing that isn't fun for solo, but of course for co-op it's completely fine. So after that, just do the zodiac symbol. It's not a hard step, and then of course when you finish up doing all of that, you just have to do the little challenge. And of course challenges are pretty much all the same, so I'll just mention them all right here. So it's just, they're fine. I mean, there's nothing special about them. You just have a lot of zombies to kill and werewolves. That's all there is to all of the challenges. So that's all I'll really say about the challenges. But on to actually the Wicker Man step, and the Wicker Man step is actually really cool, because it's just cool how you could kill one of the characters, they fall into hell, and now there it goes. It's just a really cool step. It just puts a smile on my face, just seeing how we're actually killing people and bringing them back to life. It's something that it really catches my eye, because it's just really kind of builds into this chaos story they're telling, that death isn't that big of a deal. At least they're making it to be like that. And I've always liked stories like that, where you get something that is crazy important in normal life and just make it, it's all like, that's not too important. I just like things like that where they do it. It's not something that I think they should always do, but it's a really cool story every now and then. And I just, hopefully they're doing that, because if they're not, it's going to be kind of awkward. But you know, it's something that I like to see when I actually did this, because I think they're really doing that, because obviously there's a 9 at the end of the 9 Easter egg where they chop off all our characters' heads. So I think it's going to be going for that death isn't a big deal thing in this story. So that's something I'm interested in. So for the Wicker Man step, it's just another escort step. I'm not a fan of escort steps, but at least this one isn't awful. It's not great, but it's not awful, where you have to escort the ghost. But then, of course, after that, you just go do another challenge. I already said the challenges are okay. There's nothing special about them. They're just okay challenges where you have to just get killing a lot of zombies and vampires, and of course werewolves. But then for the final main step for the Easter egg is the night step, and I don't know, this one is okay, I guess, because all you have to do is just light some I almost call them stoves. You have to light some fireplaces on fire in a certain order, then of course get the gem and put them inside the 3 knights, and then you have to escort those gems down to the forest, and then you gotta get killed by them, and it's nothing special, okay? This is probably the weakest step out of all of them, because there's nothing really special about it. It's just, oh, okay, that's cool. Just gain more kills and then do the challenge, and then after that you'll have the boss fight. So now getting into the boss fight, because the boss fight is a little disappointing for me, because it's really it's just like, it's again this problem that zombies has with the boss fights. And I want to make a separate video on talking about this boss fights, because I do have a deeper problem with the boss fights inside zombies. I think there's a really big problem with boss fights in zombies, period. Not just with Treyarch zombies boss fights, but just boss fights as a whole. And I know I've been complaining about boss fights for like ever, but you know, it's just something that I strongly feel should be addressed at least sometime very soon. But as for this boss fight, it's just it's not that cool, because it's just like the threat of the boss fight isn't the boss, it's the zombies around you. And this is a problem that zombies keeps having. It's all like, you don't have to worry about the boss too much, you have to worry about the zombies around you. That's the main threat, and it makes no sense to me. I mean, the boss is a big old giant werewolf, so why isn't he the main threat? I mean, I just don't get it. It's just like, why? I just don't understand it. And a good example of a good boss fight, at least from my opinion, is that Garage Trophy's boss fight, or even Attack of the Radioactive Thing. Either of those ones. The main threat of those boss fights are the bosses themselves. nothing else. I mean, the zombies are slight annoyances. That's all they are, and that's what I feel like they should be inside a boss fight. They should just be slight annoyances, because they shouldn't. I mean, if you're not paying attention, you should be able to get killed by them. But inside this map, it's just like, oh yeah, we'll go spin these things in the right direction and then kill zombies and wait for them to get trapped in there. Or of course, just in the middle phase or the second phase, you just have to purely kill zombies or werewolves. And it's just like, what? It's just a problem I have with these boss fights. It's just something I do not like too much about the boss fights, and I don't like where they're going with them. But I just really wish we had boss fights like Attack of the Radioactive Thing, even though I know a lot of people don't like that boss fight, but still, it's one of my all-time favorite boss fights. I don't care what anybody says. But then, of course, you also have Gorod Krovi, which is another really good example of where the boss is the actual threat. The dragon and then Nikolai. I mean, when you're fighting in Nikolai's boss fight, the reason why the zombies aren't a threat, because obviously you have a humongous area, and I think that was a really well made way to compensate for it. And then, of course, when you had the dragon step, or you find the first phase of the boss fight against the dragon, then of course you had fire all over the place, which is directly from the boss. So again, the boss is the main threat of that boss fight. Then when Nikolai happens, he's sending his things after you and all that stuff. So again, he is the main threat, not the zombies. And that's how I personally feel boss fights should be. And Dead of the Night, unfortunately, does not execute that well. The boss is really not too much of a threat, and if you die in the boss fight, it's 99% or at least 90%, because I said 99, but then I realized I went down to the boss. But that's a different thing entirely. But regardless, the main threat is the zombies, and you're going to be dying to the zombies 90% of the time, not of course, the boss itself, and that's a problem I have with it. But for the most part, it's pretty fun. It's not a bad boss fight in any way, but it's just not what I want to see out of my boss fights. If I am going to be getting them, I do not like them in this way. And really, after all that, all I have to say about the Easter egg as a whole, after hearing all that, I mainly have good feelings for the Easter egg, because, I mean, I don't really think there's a bad step. I mean, there's, okay steps, but there's never really a bad step, unlike how Voyage had bad steps. I would even argue 9 had bad steps, and even Blood of the Dead, they all had bad steps to get the Easter egg done. But this one, I mean, there's not a bad step in it. I mean, there's slight and annoying steps, but that's okay, because you need those annoying steps to give the big payoff. And that's what I really like about the Atlas step, is that, yeah, that step's annoying, but you get the best visual, I guess the reward, that's what you could say. Just the visual reward of seeing Atlas collapse and just dropping everything is just so rewarding, and it's just so cool to see, and it really makes up for all of that. And I really do like that so much about the Atlas step. So it's just something I really do like about it, and it's just, I don't know, it's just because of that, and it just really makes me like this Easter egg. I think it's the best Easter egg in Black Ops 4 by a mile, and it's even more than a mile. Like, let's be real, it's not even close, guys, the Easter eggs in these. Even 9, I mean, 9's okay, but it's not nearly as good as this boss fight. At least attacking the boss, you had a unique way of attacking him inside this Dead of the Night. You had to trap him, then you could shoot him. And I thought that was really cool, because even though everyone likes 9's boss fight, really all those are just a bunch of bullet sponge elephants. I mean, that's all they were. So this is why I think that this one by far has the best Easter egg in Black Ops 4, and it's still not even close. So that is why I think that this is probably just a pretty good Easter egg as a whole. I mean, there are better Easter eggs. I'm not saying that it's among the best, but it is by far the best in Black Ops 4, and the best Easter egg we have at least got since Infinite Warfare. So that's all I really got to say about that. But now I want to go to the final topic, and I decided to mix this with two different things because they kind of are related. And then, like I said, it's going to be storyline mixed with, of course, the aesthetic. And I first want to talk about the aesthetic of this map, because my gosh, this is why I'm going to remember this map. And maybe it's just because, and I know, actually not maybe, I know for certain that this is just a very personal thing for me, that I just absolutely love this classical, I guess late 1800s, early 1900s mansion fancy look. I love it so much. It's by far my favorite look in so many things. I mean, I know I'm a sucker for this stuff, because if you look at some of my favorite things, it's always related to this stuff. I just love this this look so much. I just love that old-fashioned, classical, fancy look so much. It's just, the marble look, the statues, like when you see the greenhouse, the garden, the cemetery, and then the forest in your backyard. I just don't know. And the Atlas statue, oh my gosh. And the water with when you see the glow coming from the water to the statues in the garden and inside the house, whoa, whew. It just blew me away. I love this map's look so much, and that's the main reason I like this map so much. I'm going to be completely honest. Yeah, the Easter eggs fine, the best we've had inside Black Ops 4. The gameplay is good, but the aesthetic, mwah, it's so good. I just can't get over it. I know that's a personal thing, a very personal preference, but it's just something I thought I'd share with you guys, because I know it's a personal thing for me, but I think that even if you aren't personally a fan of the look that it has, I think you could at least appreciate how nice the map looks. I mean, the lighting is some of the best we've ever seen since, I would argue that the best lighting we've seen since, I guess, Moon Remastered. I think Moon Remastered had some really good lighting works inside of it, and I think this one just is the one I've seen it just a little bit better than we've ever seen before. I just love the lighting effects in this map, and it's just so cool. So very cool. But of course, for the storyline, is that the storyline is it's a prequel, and that's, I think, what kills it for me, is that I already knew what was going to happen pretty much. Yeah, of course, there was a little surprise, and of course I should put a spoiler warning right here. Of course, inside the Easter egg, when it ends, it's just a surprise that the butler killed everybody, and then of course Scarlet goes and kills the butler and all that stuff. I mean, that's a little bit of a surprise, but really, is it really though? I mean, we already pretty much knew what was going to happen. Alistair was getting kidnapped, and then of course Scarlet was going to find out about it. And now she's looking for the people, and I mean, I get prequels, and this is my problem with making the prequel right here, because I love myself some prequels. I like when we learn about something that happened before all the story happened. Like, what's a good example? I'm trying to think of a good example. I just can't think of one right now on top of my head. I should put this in my notes for this video, but whatever. But regardless, my problem with having the prequel right here is that we didn't get too far into the storyline, because the reason I've liked prequels in the past is that we got through a storyline pretty far, but then I've always wondered about some things that happened before this, and of course then they would release a prequel and be like, oh, I gotta know about this is interesting, I want to know what exactly went on over here, because I want to know how we got to this point before we even had it started. And that's one thing I was looking forward to, but that doesn't really work because we didn't get too far in the story. I mean, we're 2 maps into this Chaos storyline, then we got a prequel. It just was kind of a turnoff for me for that. I mean, yeah, it's cool, but we didn't get anything that was really groundbreaking for the storyline. I mean, everything we got in this Easter egg was pretty much stuff we already knew. And in the radios or the gramophones that of course, of the ones I've listened to, it's just nothing really groundbreaking. I mean, I can't really make a video really saying much because the storyline is just like, there's not much. I mean, it's just, we already know what's going on, and that's my problem with it. And that's not to say it's bad, but it's just, we already know. I mean, what could I say about it? We already know what's going on with this. I mean, it's not bad, but I just think the timing for this prequel should have been, like, maybe in their next game. The prequel shouldn't have been now. It's just, we were only 2 maps into this story, so it's just way too early if you ask me for a prequel. Way too early. So that's all I have to really say about the story. But if you guys have noticed, I've actually given the general gameplay a little bit above average. I mean, well, not a little bit above average, but not great, but it's not average. It's this middle area between the two. It's good. It's pretty good. I'll just leave it at pretty good. And then, of course, the Easter egg, it's pretty good. And the aesthetic / storyline, well, the storyline is just okay, because it's not bad, but it's just like we knew everything, like I said. But the aesthetic, oh my gosh, that blows me away. So if I had to give a final grade to Dead of the Night, I would have to say somewhere from, if I was giving it 1 to 10, it would be about a 7-ish area. I think it would be 7-ish. I don't think I could give it 8 because I do not like the boss fight, and that's what really kills me, because that's the climax of the Easter egg, and the boss fight is just like, it's like I mean, it looks cool, yeah, it looks cool, but that's all I could say about it. It's not something crazy. If you guys have seen my streams of me doing the boss fight, it's not me freaking out like I was back in Black Ops 3 and with some Infinite Warfare maps. It's just like, This this is cool, I guess. That's honestly my reaction to it. Even the first time I went in there, I didn't see anything before, but it's just like, I don't know, it's just a big ol' That's all these boss fights are, and that's what really kind of killed it for me. So I really wish the boss fight was better, because then I would easily throw it into one of the greater maps, even though I would kind of forgive the story, because the story is still technically just getting on its feet. So, you know, I don't know, it's just hard for me to give this map anything higher than the 7, but the aesthetic is the thing that bumped it up a lot. I'm just going to be completely honest. But anyways, that's about it for this review. I want to hear what you guys think about my thoughts, and I also want to hear what your thoughts are on the map. So I want to hear 2 comments from every single person. No, I'm not trying to get more comments out of you guys. That is not true. I would never do that. But I'm actually being real here. I'm actually being real. I want to hear what you guys actually think about my thoughts on this map, and also what your thoughts are on this map too. I would love to hear both of them, because I just want to see where we agree and of course where we disagree on this map, because I've actually heard people not liking this map, but I mean, I really do like it. But I don't know, I want to hear everyone's opinions on everything you possibly can relating to this map, whether it be my opinion on my opinions, or opinions on the boss fight, Easter egg, map aesthetics, or just whatever it may be. I want to hear all that stuff. But that's about it for me. If you guys did enjoy the video, go ahead, do all the normal YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, bell, share, and especially bell. But I'm gonna go, and I'll catch you guys in the next stream or video.